film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook at Crazon Dion.
The top 5 reasons why, right here, people, the top 5 reasons why Trump is reelected, right? We have to go here next. The top 5 reasons why Trump is reelected. Let me get to my page, right? Top 5 reasons. You find it. Look, Trump has been in there, and anyone who's been following the news, you're like, what are you doing, Democrats? What are you doing? All right. The Democrats have underestimated Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I said when he first got in, he's going to be fighting, and he continues to fight for his name. And people who don't fight for their name, they don't know what that's about. Your name is platinum and gold, and you can work through things and rebuild your name, but if your name is totally just destroyed, then it's nothing right. So the top 5 reasons why Trump is most likely reelected. Number 5, poor decisions by the Dems. Is Hillary's fault. Have you seen 11/9? That was Michael Moore's film, where it talked about that the numbers were switched. In the delegate numbers were switched. Bernie actually had winning numbers, but they switched it because they thought that it was Hillary's time, and they switched it. And Bernie, I guess he's a good soldier. He went along with it, but he won't go along with it this time. Now, so it is Hillary's fault. No doubt about it. It's Hillary's fault. She thought that she could do it, but she was hardly campaigning, and he out-hustled her. She was hustling, and he had hustle. And so it's HUSSLING. What she was doing, had hustle. HUSTLE. Right? So it's number 5. Totally wrong. Bernie had the same message, just bringing it different. He was there, and they didn't, and they don't want a so-called quote-unquote socialist, but Social Security is socialist. But anyway, number 5, poor decisions by the Dems is Hillary's fault. Number 4, the Dems don't have a message other than fear. How are you going to just have a message in fear, right? A message in fear. See, fight or flight comes from off of the same emotion called fear, right? So either you stand in and fight for it, or you're going to retreat, right? So when you know that fight or flight, when you're fighting and you're brave, they call you brave because you stand in and fight, but it comes off of a fear. Running and being a coward also comes from off of the emotion fear. So either you stand in or you retreat, and you're judged by either one of those, but it's all fear. So their message, the Dems don't have a message other than fear, which leads me to say, I just got to see. I got to see it play out. If you don't have any other message other than fear, and you can't give us anything else but fear, then you really don't want people's vote, because you got to come up with something else. Number 3, Trump appears to be smarter than the Dems and the media, who rely on bad jokes and the polls to determine Trump's popularity, right? Now, if I remember, they were ridiculing him ever since he had come down the escalator. And they used polls last time saying that the polls are dropping on Trump is not going to win. What happened? Trump won, right? And people interfering with the elections. Now, they have never said that the Russians were able to switch votes. They've never said that. Okay. So that means that the Russians didn't switch votes, right? Okay. So that means, because they've never said that, because it would be major alarm, right? If that's what happened, they should have said it, but they didn't say it. So that meant that they said the bots influenced what the people are doing, and that's been debunked because it was saying the ADOS were bots, and then that's been debunked. And so people just didn't like her. That's all. And that's what it was. And they voted him in because he had more charismatic charisma. Right? Okay. He knew how to get into the mud, and people like to get into the mud sometimes. We just saw that on one of them housewife shows where they like to get in the mud. But anyway, okay, number 2. He's talking to black immigrants. Right? First and second generation black immigrants that have come to this country indirectly talking to and speaking to Black Americans, ADOS, and FBA, right?
Now, what do those initials stand for?
Well, you know,
so ADOS is American Descendants of Slavery, and F Foundational Black Americans,
right? So he is bringing them to the White House, and indirectly speaking to Black Americans about them building the country. The Dems have never said that. He is peeling votes. He talks to the Jewish community and said the Dems don't like you because such a. He's peeling votes. He talks to the Asians. He's peeling votes. He talks to the Latinos and the Latinas who don't necessarily like the people who are coming across the border, because he realizes that different groups of Hispanics are different than others, and they don't like each other. He's peeling votes, right? The Democrats are saying that everybody is all the same. It's one homogenized clump of spam, and last time I knew, everybody don't like spam. Number one. If the House Dems don't get him with impeachment and prosecution in the Senate, which means that they can impeach him in the House, but the Senate is controlled by Republicans, and if the Dems can't put enough pressure on the Republicans to push for them to prosecute him, he's still in there. He will win because he's given the Republicans what they want. They have always wanted the policies that he has put in place, and that's why I believe that the Senate under Mitch McConnell will not vote for impeachment, because it's a two-step process, people. One, that's why Bill Clinton was impeached, but he was still president, because they did not convict him in the Senate, and Trent Lott had to fall back, because when you make a move on a political figure in Washington politics, just the way politics go, then you have to fall back. So let's say, this is where I see it, if Nancy Pelosi, they made this move, if they move to impeach him in the House and some Democrats peel off and vote nay, she has to fall back, because it won't be successful. She may still have to fall back if they can't convince the Senate Republicans to convict him. So it's indictment and conviction. Impeachment is indictment. Conviction is conviction. Right. So those are the top 5 reasons why Donald Trump most likely, unfortunately, will be reelected.
Along with his supporters. And they're going to push him and put him back in.
They're going to put him back in, because they're talking about the polls, but whenever the reporters go to the ground, the people say they've been trying to get him since he came down the escalator. They got the talking points in their head. Right? Okay, people. So that was the top reasons for that as we move right along.
And then speaking of ADOS, they were also part of the Comcast, anti-Comcast, right?
That's right. They were out there marching.
Right.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. We kind of touched on it.
Yeah.
Now, there were some people out there, before we get on to Knives Out, there were some people out there that were protesting, talking about Comcast, keep stars on your line for power.
Right.
Now, so common sense tells me, just looking at it in the political framework, that numbers are numbers, right?
Right.
Ignorance is ignorance. Numbers are numbers, right? Who says that someone who was intricately involved in power didn't send those people out there to stand alongside ADOS to protest?
Right.
The ADOS people started getting up there talking about, this is not about power. This is not about OJO.
About numbers.
This is not about that. But so they were trying to tell them it's not about that, and they were looking dumbfounded because it's about the number of people who are standing with you. That's one thing that white
folks. Because it's power in numbers.
Power in numbers.
Power in numbers.
That's right. It's one thing that the Caucasians know, like the ones, if they're going to be split, they'll be against and against. But if it's two sets of people coming for a different reason, but going against the same person,
for example, Trump,
enemy,
Trump is anti MSNBC.
That's right.
But he came together with NBC, MSNBC. They're all ones, so he came together, who normally he would say that they are his, basically like his enemies. He's constantly going at it with MSNBC.
Right.
But he came together with them, with Comcast and MSNBC, to go against Byron Allen and the Civil Rights Bill.
That's
so they came together as
because
one.
Because Comcast owns NBC.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's what the Caucasians know.
They came together as one.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. And that's exactly what they did.
But these people were sitting up here not following simple code.
Right.
It's just simple code.
It's just thinking.
It's just thinking. So they were just, because people get into, well, I don't like the show because it shows this and it shows that. It doesn't have anything to do with it. Hella beans. It is numbers, people.
Right.
And to see that, I say,
and the commonality is they're coming together against who?
Against Comcast. That's
Bingo.
Right. So it's not about who can sword fighting and doing all that. Right. It's not about that, right? It's really ridiculous that they would have done that when the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Right. Now, you can all wait until later, to figure out your differences, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Knives Out.
The Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook at Crazon Dion.